everyone. Come on in because we are here to talk about Tia Mowry again. Tia's whining again, y'all.
Tia Mowry is setting the record straight about her parenting journey. The actress reacts to the backlash for calling herself a, quote, single mom.
Tia is whining one more time. If any of you last year watched my series on Tia Mowry, it was at that time I concluded that Tia's got a problem. She's got a real big problem with accountability, the over victimization of herself, so many things. So I want to talk about the latest kerfuffle that Tia Mowry has created out here in the world surrounding the whole term of single mother, single mom.
Share it. She continues, being a single mom doesn't always mean a mom doing it all alone without the father present in their kids' lives at all. I recognize.
And the reason why I want to talk about it because this also came up with Ashanti and Nelly, right? Everyone was walking around talking about Ashanti is a single mom because Nelly don't want to change no diapers. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and talk about this now that Tia Mowry has entered the chat. And I want to say this. First of all, I want to be delicate with Tia Mowry because if y'all watched my series before on her reality TV show, I think Tia has a real big problem. When I say a real big problem, a problem that needs to be worked out with a therapist, because Tia loves to play the victim. So first I'm going to talk about Tia a little bit. Then I'm going to talk about the term single mother and why I don't think it applies to Tia. And I didn't think it applied to Ashanti. Because sometimes what happens is when you over victimize yourself in certain scenarios, what you're actually doing is you're also diminishing the journey of people who are actually part of that category, right? It's like crying wolf when you shouldn't be. Now, are you facing some challenges? Yeah, but you can't just claim and take over phrases and lifestyles and conditions and circumstances that were reserved to really talk about people who are really single moms, right? So the first part I want to say about Tia is Tia loves attention. Let's just get that part straight. Tia loves attention, and Tia doesn't matter what type of attention it is. If it's negative attention, it doesn't matter. Somewhere along her life, she learned this. I don't know, maybe it was because she's a twin. And oftentimes people struggle in a household to get attention from their parents. And I would imagine that it's hard enough for children to find attention in a family, let alone when you're a twin. How do you differentiate yourself when you're a twin, right? And what Tia learned somewhere where she was younger, she learned that whining and making herself the victim is how she got attention. Her parents might have catered to her more when she was crying, whining, or being the victim. And that became her go-to. Because in her reality TV show, she does it all the time. She is the constant victim. And I don't want to diminish that she's struggling in an area, but what she does is she over victimizes herself. And in doing this, what Tia typically does is she takes away attention from other people who are also suffering. She did it to Corey, right? And, a lot of people say, let your work speak for itself, where Tia says, let my complaints speak for themselves, because she believes the model that the squeaky wheel gets the attention. That's what she believes. So as long as she makes the wheel squeak, she's going to get some attention. Like I said, maybe it was a good twin versus bad twin scenario in the house between Tia and her sister Tamara. And so as a result, how does she stand out in this twin situation? Maybe it was to be the one that's suffering, the one that's in pain, the one that's in need of more help. And as a result, that's how she was able to get more attention. Um, and I think that is what played out, because if you look at the two personalities between Tia and Tamara, it is starting to become clear that Tamara always feels a need to help people. You see, when you grow up with a person who constantly victimizes themselves, sometimes this is a sibling, sometimes this is a mother, sometimes it's a father. Inevitably, what the person in the family who's always the victim, inevitably, what they create in that family is someone is going to become the person who overly cares about someone else's feelings as opposed to their own. It's going to happen. Remember, you got a person in a family unit, whether it's a mother or a father or a sister or a brother. They've taken on the role that I want to be the constant victim in this family. Well, victims need attention, right? So what happens is someone else or others in the house, what they have to give up a little bit of what they want for themselves, because everyone has to tend to the victim. You see what I'm saying? Are there real victims in the household? Yes, there are special need kids. There are people with disabilities. There are real people in family units that do need special attention, in which the family has to rally around them. But there are some people like Tia who learn this method and say, you know what? I want to become that person in the family where I can whine, I can throw tantrums, I can overly victimize myself. And then what will happen is the family will have to rally around me. I think what you saw with Tia in her reality TV show was you saw the tiredness of the family around this behavior of Tia. And after a while, what starts to happen is people start drawing boundaries around the people who are victims. They start saying, listen, I'm not going to hang out with you. I'm not going to be in the room with you. I'm not going to be in a relationship with you if every time that we're together in a relationship, you always have to be the victim. Because when you're always the victim, that makes me then have to cater to you, which makes me lose myself. So when the victim doesn't want to change from being the victim, people have to start drawing boundaries around them, and then those people have to separate from them. If you remember what Tia said about her marriage with Corey, was that she was tired of being alone in the relationship. She was married for 14 years, but she said she felt alone in the relationship. What I suspect happened in the relationship is Tia over victimizes herself. What happens is people draw boundaries and they start to back away from her. And I believe that's probably what Corey did in the relationship. He stayed married to her, but after a while, you can't quite continue to be a victim of a person who over victimizes himself. You start to feel manipulated. And so even though you don't want to break up the relationship, you have to draw boundaries. And sometimes that means distancing yourself from that person until that person can get help. The problem with Tia is she hasn't got the help she needs. More than likely, whatever therapy she's going to, that therapist is validating her feelings, her emotions. And so what she's doing is she's not really coming out of the victim stage. She's doubling down on it. And we see it constantly in social media. So now here we have Tia talking about that she is a single mom. Now, I'm going to bring my point of view into this whole conversation. Like I said, it's beyond Tia Mowry about single mom.
For me and my household, I am single. I don't have a partner, so I'm holding it down for everyone at home. I'm the only parent present day to day.
Now, is she single and a not married woman? Yes. Is she a mom? Yes. So some people might say, well, she is single and she's a mom, so she's a single mom. That's what a lot of people would say. So I want you to ask yourself, if Tia is single and she's a mom and she says she's a single mom, then in that sentence, when she calls herself a single mom, it isn't appropriate for her to start talking about her parenting duties, because that's what she's doing. She's saying she's single and dating. That's a dating status. Okay. Single is a dating status. She's saying she's a single dating status mom. I got it. And she's a mom. She's a single mom. That's correct, Tia. I agree with you. But the next part of her conversation is about how she has all these duties. Well, now you're talking about your parent duties. Okay, single is referring to your dating status. Parenting and your duties are relating to your parenting status. So, can you call yourself a single mom? Yes, because you're single and you're a mom. But what you can't do, Tia, which is what you're doing, is you're trying to lump in your single dating status with your parenting situation. You're not a single parent, you're co parenting. He's around, he's involved. You see, because otherwise, Tia, what you're doing is you're actually diminishing the work of women who are both single and dating status, a mom, and also a single parent. You're conflating the two. You're lumping them all together. You know why you're lumping them together? So you can be a victim. Okay, first of all, Tia was the one that filed for divorce. She filed from divorce because what she said was she felt single in her relationship. Maybe at the time, like I said, Corey was distancing himself. Maybe at the time she felt that she was doing more of the parenting duties than she wanted to do. She was doing more than 50% of the parenting duties. I got it. So if your issue was that you were doing more of the parenting duties, right, and that you felt you were overworked, then how did divorce solve it? I'm waiting for the answer. You're alone in a relationship. You're doing more parenting duties than you want to. So you mean the solution becomes to become now a single parent? Does that put you further ahead in the game? No, it doesn't. It didn't solve your problem. So here's the thing about people who overly victimize themselves. One of the reasons, one of the real severe consequences of over victimizing yourself is that you lose control of what the real solution is. Because when you are a victim, what you do is you place an enormous responsibility on someone else for creating the circumstance in your life. If what Tia had a problem with in her marriage was the parenting duties of being a single parent and having to do more than 50% of the work, then that's a whole different problem in your marriage. That's a whole different solution than getting divorced. You did the wrong solution to solve the problem that you had, right? You did the wrong solution to solve the problem. Now that you've gotten divorced, you're now here letting us all know here that you still consider yourself a single mom where you didn't solve your problem through divorce. Okay? So when you say you are a single mom, that's your dating status. Okay? When you are a single parent, that is more talking to your parenting status. What Tia is doing is she is a co-parent. She is not a single parent. So she should not be lumping the two in the same conversation. Now, she could say, you know what? It's hard dating as a single mother. I'm a single mother. It's hard to date as a single mom who is a single person and also has mother duties. Now, when you're referencing your dating life, it's appropriate to call yourself a single mom. But when you're referencing your duties as a parent, it isn't appropriate. You need to call yourself either a single parent where there's no man around or there's no other parent around helping you, or you need to call yourself co-parenting, right? Now, even when she says she does the majority of the work in her co-parenting, that doesn't mean you're a single parent. You're still a co-parent. You may not like the ratio. You may not like the 50-50, or you're doing 70% and he's doing 30%. But then once again, that's for you to solve. You went to court. You asked the judge for joint custody, joint legal custody, and joint physical custody. That's what you asked the judge for. And that's what the judge granted you. But if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have joint custody because what? The kids are only going to the ex-husband's house once every 2 weeks. Well, that's on you. That's on you. Enforce the joint custody agreement, which means 50-50. If you feel you're doing 70% and he's doing 30%, enforce it. Tell him he needs to take the kids more often. Enforce it, right? But don't just not do it, then go out in the world and call yourself a victim so you can get people to feel sorry for you. No. You created this solution to the problem you were having in your marriage when you got the divorce. You created the situation when you agreed to joint legal and physical custody. You did this. So if the arrangement isn't working out the way you laid it out, then it is for you to fix. You're not a victim. You have a hand in this.
She continues, it's about recognizing we need to normalize different family dynamics. Just because parents aren't together doesn't mean the family is broken. It just looks differently. Parents have to set aside their emotions and feelings for each other. They have to be there for their kids no matter what.
This whole situation around now calling women single moms, if I were really a single parent mom with no help, I would be offended by women who are single moms by choice and then who also has a co-parent to put themselves in the same position as if it were me and I'm a real single mom with no financial support, no physical time of a man helping take care of the kids, and I am the sole provider, the sole parent, the sole single source of care for my children. It is minimizing the real suffering that happens to women when women who have all these resources, co-parenting fathers who choose this lifestyle voluntarily, who have options to enforce custody arrangements in terms of custody time with their kids, who have flexibility in those areas to still lump themselves in the same area as Tia. Now, do you have your own issues, your own problems? Sure you do. Sure you do. But let's not start trying to make Tia, and this, like I said, this is a Tia thing. She loves to make herself the victim. She is self-absorbed. She doesn't see anyone else's struggles. She only sees her own. She sees everything from the vantage point of her pain. Her pain. Her. And let me tell you something. When you are a person that only sees things from your vantage point, it will be very hard to get along with other people in marriages, relationships, friendships, anything. Because what it takes for a person to be in relationship with you is the person always has to put their suffering on the background, their pain, whatever they're going through has to take a back seat to yours. You see? Now, did Tia have a long relationship with Corey? She did. She did. And what happened to their relationship was Corey stayed married, but he wasn't happy. This is why I don't think Corey has any interest in getting back together with Tia. No way whatsoever. Because what he is saying is, she complained when we are married. She's complaining now. And there was nothing I could do in the marriage. I tried everything I could do. She was never happy. Because what Tia doesn't look for, she doesn't look for ways to be happy. Because in her eyes, whining, crying, and victimization is what gets her the attention. And here she is on social media, once again, creating conversations that she knows can be triggering and controversial so she can get even more attention. This is how she now has structured her entire life. And now she is structuring her life that way in order to make money as well. Tia needs help. She really needs help. And the problem that I don't know how this is going to affect her children going forward. Because like I said, when you grow up in a family with a person who overly victimizes themselves, it creates different type of people in the household. You're either going to create a person in the household that decides, if I grow up with a person who's a victim, if I want attention, I've got to out victimize them. Sometimes you find children who grow up to rebel even more because what they say is, listen, I can't out victimize this person in my household. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to become a bigger victim than that person. And they want to out, it's like the victim Olympics. They got to out victimize that person. The other person that can sometimes be created in that household is a person who shrinks themselves, who says, you know what? I don't want to bring up my problems because Tia's problems are so large. So what I'll do is I'll shrink myself. I will suffer in silence. I will cater to Tia, the Tias of the world, because their problems are bigger than mine. And yet then that person never gets any help themselves. I don't know what Tia's raising in her household. I don't know if she's raising a person who needs to be more out there than her. I've seen a little bit of that in her daughter, Cairo. I'm not going to lie. If you watch her reality TV show, Cairo likes some attention. And in a lot of ways, that might be the way she steals it from her mother. Now, her son, the one that didn't want to appear on the reality TV show, he seems to be shrinking a bit. He seems to be saying, no, I don't want to play the Victim Olympics. I don't want to be in the spotlight. I'm going to shrink myself. I'm going to hide. I'm going to go over in the corner. I don't want the spotlight. I'll let you and Cairo battle it out in the household, Mom. You and Cairo can go at it. You can be the victim, and Cairo can act out and get even more attention. I'm going to shrink myself. This is what happens. If you're seeing this dynamic play out in your own relationships, in your life, if you're an adult and you've seen it played out with your siblings or your parents, you better do something about it, because unless you actively try to change this narrative, it doesn't fix itself. It requires intervention. It requires you to know exactly what is going on so you can have the appropriate measures. It also makes you look at your own behavior, why you became a certain person. Are you a person that shrinks because you grew up with a person who over-victimized themselves and made you cater more to their feelings? Are you a person that acts out and rebels, right? Because you grew up with a person who over-victimized themselves, and the only way for you to shine or get attention was to enter into the Victim Olympics. Who are you? You see, this is what therapy is for. This is what coaching is for. This is what people out here do to help people break these negative patterns. But Tia now is what, 50 years old? How old is Tia? 40, almost 50 years old? She better figure it out. She ain't got much time left. And she's raising two souls. She's raising two souls. She better figure it out. But this whole thing, Tia, you're not a single mom. And anybody out here who has the situation of Tia, you're not. You are a single mom in dating. You are not a single parent. You are co-parenting. And if your co-parent is lopsided, it's not 50-50, then that's what you say. That's what you say. You say, I'm a co-parent, but we do not share 50-50 parenting duties. I have to absorb 80%, 70%, 60% of the parenting duties. Then there's a conversation, right? And in that means you don't diminish someone else's suffering, Tia, just so you can be seen. I don't like it. Get some help, Tia. I keep saying over and over again, Tia, please get some help. Anyway, that's it, y'all. Talk to you later. Bye.